filled, the water came up a lot closer. So he made every one of those bricks. They kept it in their family for generations, and then it became a tavern. It became British military headquarters during World War, French and Indian War, and then it became a restaurant, several restaurants along the way. Henry was an Englishman. A lot of people think he was from Holland because he sailed for the Dutch. However, in 1607 and 1608, he did sail for England, especially the Muscovy Company, and what he and the others were looking for was a short passageway northeast to the Orient to get the silks and the spices that the Europeans like to use. The country that found a short route was able to make more trips and therefore make more money. He didn't discover anything in 1607 and 1608, but in 1609, Holland gave him a ship called the Half Moon. And on his own, he decided to go northwest. So, as Tom Jones, singer from Wales, says, he crossed the pond, okay, and he came down along the coastline of Maine, as we know today, and got as far down as Virginia. Didn't spot a thing, but on his way back up, he spotted a huge body of water that we know today as New York Harbor. He felt this was it. He had found it. He was elated because he was upset by now with finding this passageway. Although I have to tell you, he wasn't the first European to discover the harbor. Verrazano discovered it in 1528, but he never sailed up the river. Henry was the first European to come up the river. When he got to this area, he came to a complete stop because the water was too shallow. So he was very disappointed. But while he was here, he traded with the Mohican Indians who lived here. They gave him a fur of an animal that a lot of them lived in this area, and it was very, very a great commodity because the Europeans made their hats and coats out of it. It's a small, flat-tailed animal with very sharp teeth. Anybody want to guess? Beaver, absolutely yes, and they made their hats and coats out of it in Europe, so he knew he had something good to bring back to Holland. What he gave the Indians was alcohol, disease, cloth, and tools. And I read that tribe was eventually wiped out within 100 years. So when he went back to Holland, they were elated about this fur because they knew they had a good thing here, that they were going to make a lot of money. So they sent over some traders in 1613 who set up a trading post called Fort Nassau, and I will show you when we get down by the river where that was built. There's a site there that's now a Holiday Inn Express. I'm going to stop for a second to point out this beautiful mansion here, and this is on your bingo sheet. This was built in 1798 by General Abraham Pembroke. He was a Revolutionary War general, a former mayor of Albany, and a great friend of George Washington. They kept it in their family for a long time and then sold it, and that family sold it. It eventually came into the hands of the Thomas Olcott family. Very wealthy family. That name's going to come up twice more. They kept it in their family for over 100 years, and in 1948 they deeded it over to the Albany Historic Foundation, who have it today. They do have tours, especially Christmas time. It's absolutely beautiful. The homes over here on the left were built by very wealthy families, and they were originally made of wood, but they had so many fires they rebuilt them with stone and bricks, and they're now mostly apartment buildings. This street was known as Millionaire Row because of all the wealth that was on the street. The actual name is Pembroke Street. This is the old St. Joseph's Roman Catholic Church, built in 1842, designed by Patrick Keeley, an Irish immigrant architect. It's now closed down. The diocese deeded it over to the city in the 90s, and they tried a few things with it, but nothing took. So now they deeded it over to the Albany Historic Foundation, and they have it today. They are repairing it. They started with the roof, and now they're working on the interior. It'll never be a church again, but it might be a community center, a library, or a community center, library, or a recreation center, depending on the neighborhood. They are getting the input. And Arbor Hill, Olcott family renamed their mansion area Arbor Hill, and eventually the whole neighborhood had come to be known as Arbor Hill. This is the Sweet Pilgrim Baptist Church, built in 1876 to service the Baptist community. The church is on the second floor. The first floor is a vestry, or a community room. Now, if you look ahead at the family court, look up at the dome, you'll see a ship up there. Whose ship do you think that is? I know you know. Henry Hudson. Yes, the Half Moon. We're going to see another replica when we get down on the river. Coming up on the left is going to be the Palace Theater. It's considered the crown jewel of the RKO theater chain. It was built in 1931, has 2,800 seats. Started out as a vaudeville theater, then it became a movie theater, and now the city has made it into an entertainment center.
Is one of the
it has 5,000 bulbs in the marquee there. You're going to have a small test before you get off the boat. You're going to have 3 questions. They're all numbered. And that's your first number, 5,000 light bulbs.
Movies.
You don't pass it. You're going to ride around with us on the 4 o'clock.
Look at the couple.
Okay. Now we're coming up. Oh, I want you to point out this beautiful
Oh, the couple.
That is Whispering Close. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
They're scattered throughout the city, and there's a walking tour. There is a walking tour that you can get this in the visitor center. It's called Sculptures in the Street, and they have listed all the sculptures and where they're located. So that's one of them. We're going to see a few of them if I have time to point them out. There's one coming up at the Town Square Theater. This corner building that you see over here was lived in by Herman Melville. Anyone know what famous book he wrote? No, I'm sorry. It's Moby Duck. Thanks to the New York Post. I've been vindicated. I say Moby Duck all the time, and everybody says Moby Dick. Thank you. That's the first one. Yeah, he wrote Moby Dick. I don't want to disillusion anyone. But he lived there. He worked for the Albany Evening Journal. No, excuse me. He worked for the Albany Microscope. The Albany Evening Journal was a newspaper that used to be in the D&H building. Coming up here on the right-hand side is the old Dutch Reformed Church. It's the fourth one they built. The first one was built in 1642. This was built in 1798. They have a pulpit in there that was purchased from Holland, and they paid 25 beaverskins for it in 1656. It's still there. And it has an hourglass on it that when the sand runs down, the pulpit opens up and the minister falls through. Talk too much. There's another sculpture right there. It's called No Mommy, this one. A little boy sitting on his mother's lap. She's reading to him. This is the oldest department store in Albany, B. Lodges, built in 1867. When all these stores moved out, this was a very busy street, North Pearl Street, very busy, all shops, everything. But they all moved out to the mall. East Stage was a great business. That's the old Kenmore Hotel. We're passing there. Built in the late 1800s. They had a nightclub on the second floor called the Rainbow Room that was frequented by a local gangster that lived here, Jack Leg Diamond. Yes, and we're going to talk more about him when we get up near where he lives. Now, straight ahead of us on the left-hand side, you see that tall building, the Home Savings Bank with the flag up there? On the corner of it right here, you'll see some gold medallions. They represent the 5 Indian nations and the Dutch patroons who were the landowners. There's another sculpture there, frequent flyers. They come on me so quickly that we passed them before I get a chance to point them out. But coming up on the corner where the hotel is, right on the corner, you'll see Los Mariachis. So you'll see those. They're cool. Now, we had a lot of stores here downtown open till 9 o'clock on Thursday nights. Anybody old enough to remember that? There you go. Over here is the 11 North Pearl Street. That used to be the Home Savings Bank building. It's now a developer purchased it, and he is leasing out space. The first floor has a catering 11 North Pearl event. And I read an article that said in 1927 they put in the first bathroom, which was a boon to the ladies who came down here shopping. So that was a wonderful thing that they did. Over here were a bunch of, there still are some stores, but there used to be a Planters Peanut store there. And a man dressed as Mr. Peanut would stand out front and hand out free samples of Planters Peanuts. Dressed as Mr. Peanut, black top hat, monocle, peanut shell for a body. And a few years ago, a gentleman in the back raised his hand and said, "I was Mr. Peanut, 1955. And he was thrilled that we mentioned it on our tour. He was thrilled. I had a picture taken with him. He's this high. He's in his 80s now. This tall. He was thrilled. Here's Los Mariachis right here. Aren't they cool?
They are.
Aren't they wonderful? They're here till the end of October, I believe. All the sculptures in it. Now, when the Dutch traders came over in 1613, the Dutch families came over in 1624, and they made their settlement in the middle of the street. And around them they had a stockade fence.
Oh my God.
After years and years of mudslides, they started building on the sides of the street, but that's why the street is so wide. Now, coming up here is one of my favorite little secrets of Albany, which I didn't learn until I took the job here as a tour guide. Inside the front doors of St. Peter's Episcopal Church, under that floor, when you walk in the door, under that floor is buried a British general, General Lord George Augustus